10 Things to Do in Amsterdam. The Dutch capital Amsterdam is unique in its kind. Anyone who sees photographs or film clips of Amsterdam will immediately recognize that they were taken in this city. For conservative people, the largest city in the Netherlands looks like a Sodom and Gomorrah, where everything seems to be allowed and possible. Of course, Amsterdam is much more than drugs, sex and destruction. The ancient city has a world-famous canal belt with beautiful authentic canal houses. The city has numerous unique museums, each of which is at the top of its genre. Today we tell you 10 things to do in Amsterdam. Number 1. The canals of Amsterdam. If there is one thing Amsterdam is known for, it is its canals. These man-made waterways have been the face of Amsterdam's historic center for centuries. In the past, water was the most important way to transport goods. It is no coincidence that so many waterways were built in an important trading center. These ensured that the goods could be transported to the warehouses. Every day thousands of tourists take part in a canal cruise. During such a tour, which usually lasts about an hour, you discover the canals and its history. You will hear the history of a number of historic buildings, and you will discover the various typical Dutch facades. Number 2. Anne Frank House. The Anne Frank House is where the Jewish girl Anne Frank went into hiding when the Germans occupied the Netherlands during World War II. Here she wrote her world-famous diary. Shortly after the war, the Anne Frank Foundation was established and the house was saved from demolition. Since 1960 it is still open to visitors and you can see everything with your own eyes. The way this museum is set up makes the sad story of Anne and her family visible and tangible. It offers visitors the chance to experience how far-reaching war is for civilians, and how this last great war had an enormous impact on Jews who had to go into hiding in order to survive. Due to the enormous interest in this museum, and its compact size, advance reservations are essential. This can be done via the Anne Frank House website. Number 3. Van Gogh Museum. The next position in the top 10 things to do in Amsterdam is for the Van Gogh Museum. The name says it all. This art museum is dedicated to the Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh. Born in the Brabant town of Zundert, this artist is best known for his post-impressionist works. Van Gogh is considered one of the greatest painters of the 19th century. Unfortunately, this was only recognized after his death. A visit to the Van Gogh Museum means a journey through the artistic life of Van Gogh. During the walk through the museum you will see his development as a painter and the impact his mental state had on his work. In addition to works by Van Gogh, you'll also see pieces by his contemporaries, such as Paul Gauguin and Claude Monet. Number 4. Rijksmuseum Amsterdam. The Rijksmuseum Amsterdam is one of the 16 national museums in the Netherlands. Located in the Rijksmuseum building designed by Pierre Cuypers, it houses a truly top-notch collection of art objects such as paintings, prints and sculptures. Its most famous work is The Company of Captain Frans Banning Kock and Lieutenant Willem van Ruytenberg Prepares to March Out. The shorter name, The Night Watch, will probably sound more familiar to you. This painting, created in 1642 by Rembrandt van Rijn, is unique and invaluable. Fortunately, it is of such a size that you don't just put it under your arm and walk out with it. The Night Watch is just one example of the fantastic works of art you can see with your own eyes in Amsterdam's Rijksmuseum. A tour of this enormous museum takes you past numerous impressive paintings, most of which date from the 15th to the end of the 19th century. Number 5. The Pijp District. Most visitors to Amsterdam are particularly charmed by De Pijp. This part of Amsterdam was built at a relatively rapid pace at the end of the 19th century as a solution to the great demand for housing. Now, more than a century later, De Pijp is a textbook example of how people from all walks of life can live together. This gives the neighborhood a unique atmosphere that can certainly be considered typical of Amsterdam. Within De Pijp there are a number of attractions that deserve to be highlighted. For example, you can visit the famous Albert Kuip market here 6 days a week. This market is a prime example of a typical Dutch market. The Heineken experience is very popular. This interactive tour of the former Heineken brewery is especially fun for people aged 18 and over, who can tap their own beer. Number 6. Cycle to Hidden Gems. There are over 800,000 bicycles in Amsterdam. That's more bikes than people. Cycling in Amsterdam is a way of life, made easier by the city's unbeatable network of cycle routes and flat landscapes. Amsterdam regularly comes out on top in lists of the world's most cycle-friendly cities, and there's no finer way to explore the region's attractions than by pedal power. Hop on your bike and head to Slaughterplein for a dip in the sprawling lake, or cycle over to Ouderkerk aan de Amstel to explore a 12th-century village idyll packed with historic sites. Many of Amsterdam's best-kept secrets can be discovered from the comfort of your saddle. Number 7. Artis. In Amsterdam you can visit the oldest operational zoo in the Netherlands, Artis. This approximately 14-hectare zoo first opened its doors in 1838. Over the years Artis has grown in size and the live animals are now the main attraction. We prefer not to use the word attraction when it comes to living creatures. Several innovations have taken place within Artis over the past few decades. An interesting fairly new feature is micropia. Here you can learn about microscopically small organisms. Number 8. The Jordaan. Of all Amsterdam's neighborhoods, the Jordaan is definitely one you shouldn't miss during your visit to this lively city. The Jordaan is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Amsterdam. Once started as a working-class neighborhood and transformed into a hip district where the Jordanian roots are visible in various ways. One thing that has never disappeared is the wonderful atmosphere that prevails in the sometimes narrow streets. The contemporary Jordaan is a neighborhood full of nice restaurants and fine boutiques. A number of small-scale special museums are among the Jordaan's main attractions. Number 9. The Vondelpark. The Vondelpark is a large elongated city park located to the southwest of Amsterdam's historic center. The park dates back to 1865. For some of the people of Amsterdam, the Vondelpark is the piece of green where you go when the weather is inviting enough. For tourists, a walk through Vondelpark means getting to know this side of Amsterdam. Mostly smiling people who prefer to spend their free time here together in all sorts of ways during sunny weather. We always say that a city park is a kind of reflection of the local society. Number 10. The Red Light District. We wondered whether we should include the Red Light District in the top 10 attractions of Amsterdam. Does a prostitution area belong among museums, canals and courtyards? Frankly, in the case of Amsterdam, it does. The Red Light District or the Ramparts have become a kind of cultural heritage of the Red Light District of Amsterdam. The area known far beyond its borders as the Red Light District attracts thousands of visitors. And that is not meant to be ambiguous. The narrow alleys between the ramparts house several hundred windows with red lights burning behind them. With these, the sex workers show their intentions. The often barely concealing clothing also says enough. Should you take a stroll through the Red Light District? We don't want to make that choice for you. Do what you feel good about, but at least show respect for the neighborhood and the people who work there. Enjoy your visit to Amsterdam.